30 days until his wedding? Should I ruin it with his med school secrets? It started with a save the date. A glossy, cream-colored cardstock shoved between bills and junk mail. Mark Emily. 30 days. My stomach clenched. Mark. My Mark. Or rather, the Mark. Or rather, the Mark I thought I knew for 3 years. The Mark who told me he loved me, who held my hand through my grandmother's funeral, who promised me a future. He was marrying someone else. Emily. I scrolled through her Facebook. Kindergarten teacher. Smiling, wholesome pictures with kids holding up painted masterpieces. Pictures with Mark, his arm possessively around her, both beaming. They looked happy. Happiness I thought he wanted with me. We broke up 2 years ago. Irreconcilable differences, he'd said, his voice flat, detached. He was starting his residency. I was focused on my career. It seemed amicable enough then. Now, staring at Emily's dimpled smile, it felt like a punch to the gut. Lisa, my ride-or-die friend, was predictably furious. David, ever the voice of reason, sighed. Sarah, dwelling on this isn't healthy. Just block him, unfollow everything, and move on. Easy for him to say. He hadn't had his heart meticulously dissected by a charming sociopath. I tried to follow David's advice. I muted Mark on all platforms. I went out more, forced myself to focus on work. But his image haunted me. His smile felt like a taunt. Then came the bomb. I ran into Ethan, a guy from Mark's medical school class, at a bar downtown. We were catching up when I mentioned Mark was getting married. Ethan's face tightened. Mark's getting married? Wow. He landed on his feet, huh? He took a long swig of his beer. What do you mean? I asked, my gut twisting. Ethan hesitated. Look, it's ancient history. And I probably shouldn't be saying anything. But, well, Mark wasn't exactly Mr. Ethical back in med school. He proceeded to tell me about Mark's study groups, how Mark always had access to old exams, how he'd subtly manipulate situations to get the best rotations, even if it meant screwing someone else over. He even hinted at Mark paying someone to write his thesis. Everyone knew, Ethan said, shaking his head, but nobody wanted to cross him. He was connected, ambitious. He knew how to play the game. Connected, ambitious. I remembered Mark's easy charm, his ability to talk his way out of anything, the way he always seemed to get what he wanted. I'd attributed it to his charisma, his intelligence. Now, I saw it for what it was: calculated manipulation. The final straw was the exam Ethan was hinting at. Apparently, Dr. Thompson, one of the more tenured professor, knew something of this manipulation. He cheat? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Ethan avoided my gaze. Let's just say he unfair advantage. The betrayal slammed into me with renewed force. Not just the relationship, but the fact that his entire career was potentially built on lies. This wasn't just about my broken heart. It was about ethics, about justice, about him getting away with it. Lisa was incandescent with rage. You have to tell Emily. She deserves to know who she's marrying, and the medical board. He can't be allowed to practice if he cheated his way through school. David, predictably, cautioned against it. Sarah, this is serious. You could be You need concrete proof, not just hearsay. And consider the impact on Emily. Is ruining her life really worth it? Worth it? The question echoed in my head. Emily seemed nice, innocent. But was her happiness worth protecting if it was built on a foundation of deceit? Was Mark's career more important than the integrity of the medical profession? I spent the next few days in a frenzy of research. I dug through old medical school directories, searching for contact information for Mark's former classmates. I found a few who were willing to talk, anonymously of course. They corroborated Ethan's story. Mark had cheated. He'd manipulated. He'd lied. The evidence mounted. I even found a copy of Mark's thesis online. Parts of it seemed familiar. A quick Google search revealed paragraphs lifted verbatim from a research paper published years earlier. Plagiarism. I felt a surge of righteous anger. This was it. This was the smoking gun. I drafted an anonymous email to Emily, outlining Mark's past transgressions. I attached screenshots of the plagiarized thesis. My finger hovered over the send button. But then, I looked at Emily's Facebook page again. Emily in her classroom, surrounded by her students, all wearing homemade Dr. I called David. "I need your help," I said, my voice trembling. "I have information. Damaging information." "This is substantial," he said finally. "If you were to release this information, it could have serious consequences for Mark." "That's what I want," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "And for Emily?" he asked softly. I looked away. "There are legal channels you could pursue," David continued. "You could file a complaint with the medical board, but that would require you to come forward, to identify yourself. And it could be a long, drawn-out process." "An anonymous email is easier," I said bitterly. David sighed. "Easier, yes, but also potentially illegal. And it could backfire. Mark could deny everything, discredit you. He could even sue you for defamation." He was right. I knew he was right. But the thought of Mark getting away with it, of him building a successful career on lies, was unbearable. Lisa, meanwhile, was actively encouraging me. "Don't let him off the hook, Sarah. He deserves to suffer. Think of all the other people he'll hurt if he's allowed to continue practicing medicine. You have a responsibility to expose him." I tried to picture Mark, standing at the altar, promising to love and cherish Emily forever. A lie. All of it, a lie. The days ticked by. 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week. I found myself driving past Mark and Emily's house, a small, cozy bungalow with a freshly manicured lawn. I saw them inside laughing, cooking dinner. They looked normal, like any other happy couple. The cognitive dissonance was jarring. How could he be so happy? So normal, knowing what he'd done? I started having nightmares. Dreams of Mark standing over a patient, his hand shaking, unable to perform a life-saving procedure because he hadn't truly earned his medical degree. Dreams of Emily, heartbroken and betrayed, her future shattered. 3 days before the wedding, I received a package in the mail. No return address. Inside, a single photograph. It was a picture of Mark, taken at his... He was surrounded by friends, laughing, holding a beer. And next to him, a woman. Not Emily. A woman I didn't recognize. Her hand was resting on his leg. The blood drained from my face. So, he was still at it. Still lying, still cheating. This was it. This was the final push. I said, my voice trembling. I need to talk to you about Mark's time here. He looked up, his eyes narrowed. I don't have time for this, he said curtly. I'm very busy. It's about cheating, I said, my voice gaining strength. About old exams. About manipulated rotations. About a plagiarized thesis. Dr. Thompson's face paled. He stood up, his hands trembling. Who are you? He demanded. How do you know about this? I didn't answer. I simply laid out the evidence. Copies of the old exams, testimonials from former classmates, the plagiarized thesis. He stared at the documents, his face a mask of disbelief. This is impossible, he stammered. Mark was one of our top students. He cheated, I repeated. And you knew, or you suspected, and you did nothing. Dr. Thompson sank back into his chair, his face buried in his hands. I didn't want to believe it, he mumbled. He had so much potential. His family, they were so... And what about the patients he'll treat? I asked. What about the lives he'll hold in his hands? Are you willing to risk those lives to protect his reputation? He didn't answer. I left his office, feeling a strange mix of relief and despair. I had done what I thought was right. But what would happen now? 2 days until the wedding. I found myself at a bar downtown, nursing a glass of wine. I watched the crowds of people, laughing, talking, living their lives. I felt like an outsider, a silent observer in a play I didn't understand. A hand touched my arm. I looked up. It was Ethan. Hey, he said, his eyes filled with concern. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I shook my head. I don't know, I said, my voice cracking. I don't know if I did the right thing. Ethan sat down next to me. What happened? He asked gently. I told him about my visit to Dr. Thompson, about the evidence I had presented. Ethan nodded slowly. But, you know, it might not be enough. Dr. Thompson is a coward. He'll probably try to sweep it under the rug. Then what do I do? I asked, tears welling up in my eyes. Ethan shrugged. I don't know, he said. But whatever you do, you have to be prepared for the consequences. One day, until the wedding. I spent the day pacing my apartment, replaying every moment of the past few weeks in my head. The discovery of the wedding invitation, the conversation with Ethan, the investigation, the confrontation with Dr. Thompson. I drafted another email to Emily. This one was different. It didn't accuse Mark of anything. It simply asked her a question. Are you sure you know who you're marrying? I attached the photograph from the bachelor party. My finger hovered over the send button. Then, I stopped. I closed the laptop. I walked to my window and looked out at the city lights, twinkling in the darkness. 30 days, I thought. But did I have the strength? Or would Mark continue to slip through my fingers, his life untarnished?